I found a photo of my living room in my mailbox, taken from inside my house. I live alone. No one had a key. Hours earlier, my mom stood at my door and told me to give the house to my brother. Because I don't have a real family. A hidden plan going back years. And when I traced it back to who started it all, I am still trying to process what just happened, and honestly, I feel like I'm either in some twisted reality show or I've lost touch with how normal people treat each other. To start, this all went down over the course of a single weekend. I'd been living in the same house, my house, for the past 8 years. Bought it with my own savings, no loans, no help. I'd worked in IT since I was 23, never flashy, just consistent. Never married, no kids. Not that I didn't want them, but life didn't unfold that way. A long-term relationship ended 5 years ago, and since then, it's just been me and the house. Nothing wrong with that. Friday morning, I get a call from my dad. Now, we don't talk often. Not because we're distant, but because if we do talk, it usually ends with him trying to make me feel like I'm not doing enough. He says, "Hey, your brother's coming back from Austin. His startup folded and he needs a place to stay." So I'm like, okay, why are you telling me this? And he just says he'll be staying with you for a while. Excuse me? I laugh a little. Think he's joking. But then he follows up with, "It's only right. You've got the space. You don't have a family or anything." That's when my stomach turned. I swear, I could feel my blood pressure spike. But I kept it cool. Asked, why not let him stay at your place? And he actually said he said this like it was normal, "We don't have the room. And besides, he's got more of a future than you do, and we don't want him wasting time in some crummy apartment." I hung up on him. That should have been the end of it, right? Nope. Friday night, around 8 p.m., I hear my doorbell ring. It's my younger brother Eli, with 2 duffel bags and a smile like he just landed a movie role. I don't even get a "Hey man, can I stay here?" Nothing. Just, "Yo, where should I put my stuff?" This man didn't even text me before showing up. I let him in. Not because I'm okay with it, but because I need time to figure out what's happening. He throws his stuff on the couch like he owns the place and opens my fridge without asking. I ask him how long he's planning to stay. He says, until things get sorted. Could be a few months. Pop said you'd be cool with it. That night, I barely sleep. Saturday morning, I call my mom. Ask her if this is some kind of joke. She goes, "Honey, your brother's going through a tough time. He's always been the ambitious one. You should be supporting him." I ask, "What about supporting me?" She goes quiet for a second and says, "You don't need support. You don't have a family, you don't have responsibilities." Let me pause right here. My mom used to say I was the dependable one. That was before Eli dropped out of college, failed at 2 different app ideas, lived in Bali for a year on their dime doing freelance brand consulting, and came back broke. He gets free passes for everything. Me? I've never asked them for a cent. Saturday afternoon, Eli is on my patio making phone calls like it's his office. He's telling someone he's reclaiming his roots and resetting in his childhood home. I walk outside and ask him what he meant by that. He says, "This place? Dad said they're gonna transfer it to me once I get back on my feet." I swear to you, I thought I misheard him. I said, "What did you just say?" He shrugs and goes, "Oh, didn't they tell you? They're gonna move the house into my name. Makes more sense long term. You're not using it to raise a family or anything." I had to sit down. My parents hadn't just invited him to stay in my house. They were making moves to give him ownership of my house. The one I bought. The one I've been paying taxes on for almost a decade. Just because I didn't have a family. Saturday night, I call them. Not a normal call, a full meltdown call. I lay it all out. I say, "This is my house. I pay for it. You have no say in this." And my mom says, "But it's not like you're doing anything with it." I ask, "What does that even mean?" She says, "You're alone. Houses are for families. Eli could build something here." I ask again, slowly, trying to contain myself, "Are you saying that because I don't have a wife or kids, I don't deserve to own my own home?" My dad cuts in. "Don't twist our words. We're just thinking about the bigger picture." I hang up again. This time, I nearly broke my phone. Sunday morning, Eli's on a Zoom call in my office. Door closed, coffee from my kitchen, wearing my hoodie, the one I've had for years. I knock and say, "You need to leave. Now." He acts confused. Like I'm the unreasonable one. "Bro, chill. I've only been here 2 days. I tell him, "You're trespassing. This is my house. You're not on the lease, not on the deed. You're out." He calls my mom on speaker. She tells him to sit tight. Says, "Don't let your brother bully you. If he forces you out, we'll take legal action." Legal action? Against me. I hang up again, go outside, and sit in my car for an hour. Not driving anywhere. Just breathing. I was shaking so bad I had to grip the steering wheel to stop my hands from trembling. That's when I realized this wasn't just about Eli. My own parents genuinely believed I had no value unless I had a spouse and kids. That I was some placeholder adult who was just holding their golden child's future home. That afternoon I called a lawyer. I didn't even know where to start. I just told her, my parents are trying to take my house through my brother. And she said something that stuck with me, this happens more than you'd think. I get off the phone with the lawyer, still in my car, still not over the fact that my parents basically just tried to repo my house and hand it over to Eli like it's a hand-me-down jacket. The lawyer, Susan, says, first thing, get all your documents together. Title, mortgage statements, tax receipts. Anything with your name on it tied to the house. Second, change your locks. That part hit me like a lightning bolt. Because until she said it, I hadn't even thought about that. Eli still had my keys. And if my parents really thought they were gonna move the house into his name, how far would they go? I walked straight back into my house and Eli was still in my office. I stood there in the hallway just staring at the closed door, listening to his voice through the wall talking about potential funding options. Like he was Mark Cuban or something. I went straight to the kitchen, grabbed the spare keys I kept in the junk drawer, walked to the front door, and locked it. Then I walked back to the office, knocked once, opened the door, and said, "You've got 10 minutes to pack. I'm changing the locks." He spins around in my chair, and goes, "What the hell, man? Where am I supposed to go?" I say, "I don't care." He stares at me for a second like I've grown a second head, then says, "Is this about what Mom and Dad said?" "Bro, they're just looking out for the family." Family. He used the word like a weapon. I told him, "You're not staying here. I'm done. Get out." And I walked off before I said something that would haunt me. 9 minutes later, he's in the living room with his bags, waiting for an Uber. Not a word from him. No apology. No explanation. Just silence and smug breathing. Like he thought I backed down. When the car showed up, he looks at me like I was the traitor. "You're seriously doing this?" I didn't answer. He stepped outside, looked around like he was memorizing the view, and said, "You're gonna regret this when they cut you off for good." Then he got in and left. 30 minutes later, I'm at Home Depot buying a new deadbolt. I spent the whole afternoon swapping locks, updating alarm codes, and checking my windows like a paranoid squirrel. Because at this point, I don't know what they'll try next. And right on cue, Sunday night, 10:42 p.m., I get a text from my mom. "Your behavior this weekend was deeply disappointing. Eli is your brother. You should want him to succeed. No, sorry for overstepping. No, thanks for letting him stay a few days." Just straight into guilt mode. I ignored it. Then came Monday. I get to work, still pissed but trying to act normal. At lunch, I check my phone and see 3 missed calls from my mom, 1 from my dad, and 1 unknown number. And a voicemail. I listen to it in the break room. It's my dad, and he says this word for word. "You've left us no choice. If you're going to act like a stranger to this family, then don't be surprised if we make decisions without you." That was not a bluff. Because when I got home that night, there was an envelope taped to my front door. A petition for ownership transfer. Filed with their lawyer's letterhead. It wasn't legally valid, it couldn't be. But it was real. It was a bluff meant to intimidate me. The attached letter said they were pursuing a family-mediated title adjustment and wanted to discuss next steps. I took a photo of it and sent it to Susan, my lawyer. Her reply? Just 1 sentence. "Time to escalate." She told me to formally notify them in writing that they were not authorized to act on my property. That any future attempts to access or alter ownership would be treated as legal threats. We sent the letter that night. Next morning, my phone starts blowing up again. This time it's Eli's Instagram. He posted a photo of my house with the caption, "Back where I belong. Big things coming." I almost threw my phone into traffic. And then came the absolute cherry on top, I got a call from the city. Turns out someone anonymously submitted a property dispute inquiry claiming that the house was inherited and under false ownership. They asked me to confirm my deed. I asked for the name of the person who submitted it. They said, "A family member. That's all we can disclose." I knew it wasn't hard to guess. That night, I drove to my parents' house. First time in years. I didn't go inside. I stood at the bottom of their porch stairs, and when my dad opened the door, I told him loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "This ends now. You are not taking my house. I don't care what lies you believe about family or legacy. I've done everything alone, and you don't get to undo that just because you're bored and miscontrolling something." My mom came outside and tried to calm it down. Said, "Let's be reasonable." I said, "You sent your other son to squat in my house and tried to steal it. I'm done being reasonable." I left. And here's the kicker, the next morning Tuesday, my mailbox is open. Not broken. Not damaged. Just open. The inside is empty. And I always get mail. I check the street. Nothing on the ground. Then I see something under my doormat. It's a printed photo of my living room. From inside the house. That's when I realized Eli had made a copy of the key. I'm standing on my porch holding this photo of my living room, my couch, my coffee table, and the hoodie I left on the armrest the night before, taken from the inside. I hadn't let anyone in. And the locks were changed. That's when it hit me. Eli must have taken photos before I kicked him out. Probably that first night. Either way, the timing didn't matter. What mattered was the message, we've been inside. We'll do it again. I called Susan, my lawyer, and told her what I found. She asked, did you file a police report? I hadn't. She told me I should. Not because they'd do much and they didn't, but because this was documentation. Evidence. A paper trail. So I filed a report. The officer was polite but clearly thought it was a family drama gone too far. I showed him the photo and said, if someone left this in your mailbox after trying to steal your home, would you take it lightly? He said, fair point. Then came Wednesday. The day I found out just how deep this thing went. I got a call at work again. This time it's from the HOA. They're asking about renovation permits. Apparently, someone submitted forms for a new driveway gate, outdoor office shed, and guest suite conversion for the downstairs area. They said they had documents with my signature. I asked them to scan and email the forms to me. When I saw the documents, I felt physically sick. The signature was mine. Or looked like it. My full name. My handwriting. But I didn't sign anything. Not recently. Not for this. I compared it side by side with my actual documents and noticed two tiny differences in the loop of the G and the slope of the S. That's when I knew I'd been forged. I called Susan again. She didn't sound surprised at all. I was worried this might happen, she said. Your brother's trying to create the illusion that the house is his. One paper at a time. We immediately filed a fraud complaint and had a cease and desist issued to the HOA just in case any work got approved. Then we submitted a formal document to the county saying any construction or ownership activity not originating directly from me was unauthorized. And then, just when I thought I had a handle on this circus, my job calls. Someone filed a complaint with HR. Anonymous, of course. The complaint said I'd created an unsafe home environment and should be investigated before promotion consideration. What promotion? Yeah, HR lets that one slip. Apparently, I was up for a departmental lead role. But now they're reviewing the complaint to determine if it needs escalation. So not only is my family trying to take my house, they're now sabotaging my career. I went home that night so wound up I couldn't eat. I checked every lock, window, even the crawl space. Nothing looked out of place, but I kept seeing that photo in my mind. My stuff. My space. Touched, watched, violated. I pulled out my old security cam kit from the garage and set it up, one facing the front door, one in the back, and one in the living room. Just for peace of mind. At 2:14 a.m., the back camera pinged. A figure was moving along the fence line. I rewound the footage and nearly dropped my laptop. It was Eli. Hoodie on. Hood up. Backpack. He didn't try the door. Didn't knock. Just walked along the edge of the yard, turned around, and left. Why? I didn't sleep. Just waited for sunrise. At 7:32 a.m., my doorbell rang. It was a process server. I was being sued. I opened the envelope. It was a civil claim filed in family court requesting a transfer of ownership due to familial verbal contract. The claim said I had agreed to give the house to Eli once I settled into remote working. That never happened. That sentence had never even left my mouth. But now it was on paper. In court. I called Susan again. This time even she sounded pissed. She said, this isn't just petty. This is calculated. She walked me through what was likely going on. Step 1, move in. Step 2, claim emotional hardship. Step 3, forge paperwork. Step 4, create confusion with legal filings. Step 5, hope I either give up or settle. But I wasn't about to fold. I told her, take it to the judge. Burn it all down if we have to. She filed a counterclaim and a formal motion to dismiss. We also requested a temporary restraining order against Eli, just based on the trespassing and the mailbox stunt. That same day, I get a group text from my mom. We are very disappointed you took legal action against your own brother. That's disgusting. You need help. We raised you better than this. I almost laughed out loud. But then my stomach dropped. Because an hour later I got a call from my bank. They froze one of my accounts due to an ownership dispute. Apparently, someone had submitted a change of contact info and tried to claim joint access. Guess who? Yep, Eli. He'd submitted my name, birthdate, and a copy of my ID. The problem is I still had my driver's license. So he either had an old scan or he had access to something I never gave him. I checked my email. Found out he'd logged into my Google Drive 3 weeks ago when he first moved in. I had a folder labeled admin stuff with scanned copies of old taxes, IDs, car title, everything. That's when I lost it. I drove straight to the police department and told them everything. This time, I filed an identity theft report. Not a dispute. Not a warning. A formal charge. They asked for every document I had. I gave them printouts, login timestamps, photos, messages, all of it. The officer took one look and said, honestly, this might actually stick. That night, I changed every password. Two-factor everything. Bought a physical key authenticator. Froze my credit. Reported the fraud to the FTC. Called the bank back and filed a full report. By Friday morning, Eli's fake access request was blocked. My HOA put his name on a blacklist. The lawsuit was already getting laughed out of the judge's inbox. And Susan told me we were preparing a restraining order hearing for next week. But just when I thought I'd turned the tide, my doorbell rang again. This time it was my mom. Standing there, arms crossed, with a copy of the house title in her hand. And she said, "You can either sign it over and move on, or we take this as far as it goes." She's standing there, my mom, on my front step like she's here to drop off a pie. Calm. Arms folded. A printed copy of the title to my house in one hand. And that look on her face? Not angry. Not sad. Just done pretending. "You can either sign it over and move on," she says, "or we take this as far as it goes." I stare at her, trying to wrap my head around what's happening. The woman who used to pack my lunches in grade school just showed up at my door with a threat of legal warfare. I don't say anything at first. Just hold the door frame with one hand because suddenly it feels like the ground isn't real. She holds up the paper and says, "We already talked to an attorney. If you're not using this place the way it should be used for a real family, then it should go to someone who will." Her words. A real family. I ask flat out, what does that even mean? I own this house. I bought it. I paid for every brick. What are you even doing here? She says, "We gave you everything when you were growing up. It's not unreasonable to ask you to support your brother now that he's starting over." Support. That's the word she used. As if giving up my home is just a slightly bigger version of letting someone borrow your sweater. I tell her, "Leave. Now." She doesn't move. She says, "You need to think about what kind of son you want to be remembered as." I slam the door in her face. Immediately, I call Susan. I tell her what just happened. She tells me this is harassment and confirms we can now add my parents to the restraining order we're filing. I agree. Then I check my cameras. Sure enough, the front cam caught the whole thing, audio and all. Good. That's going in the folder. That weekend, I don't leave the house. I stay locked in like I'm under siege. I watch the cameras like it's a live stream from a war zone. My doorbell rings 4 more times. I don't answer once. They leave things every time. First, a handwritten letter from Eli. "I just need time and space to build something. You don't get it because you've never taken risks." This from the guy whose definition of a risk was spending 2 years networking at rooftop parties in Miami. Next, a framed photo of us as kids. Literally in a dollar store frame, left sitting on my porch like it was supposed to break me. Then Monday comes. I go into work already tired, already emotionally flatlined. HR calls me in. They got another anonymous complaint. This one accused me of harboring resentment and potential violent behavior because of a domestic disagreement involving a sibling. They won't say who sent it. I don't need them to. I managed to convince HR that it's a personal matter being handled legally. I show them part of the restraining order filing. They say they'll note it. But the damage is there. The vibe changes. People look at me differently now. And I hate it. That night, I go to my backyard, sit on the edge of the patio with a blanket, and just stare into nothing. My whole life's been flipped like a table in a bar fight. And then I make a decision I didn't want to. I call my aunt, my dad's sister. We haven't spoken in years. But she's the only sane person I remember from childhood. The only one who ever told my parents to chill out when they treated Eli like he was made of gold and me like I was a spare part. She answers on the second ring. The second I say my name, she says, "I was wondering when you'd call." I tell her what's been happening. Every detail. 20 minutes of nonstop download. She says one thing at the end, "Your parents have always had a plan for Eli. You were the backup plan." I ask her what she means. She tells me back when Eli was 16 and had his first big dropout crisis, my parents told her that if he ever hit rock bottom, I'd be the one to help him back up. They always saw you as insurance, she says. They told me not to worry because you'd always be responsible and they'd never need to worry about Eli if you had a good job and a roof over your head. I hang up. That night, I stare at the ceiling until 4 a.m. No sleep. Just playing every moment back in my head. Tuesday morning. Court hearing for the restraining order. Eli actually shows up. With my parents. He's in a button-down shirt like he's headed to brunch. My mom's dabbing her eyes before we've even started. My dad? Arms crossed like he's watching a bad football game. The judge is no nonsense. She asks if we've tried to resolve this peacefully. I say I tried. They forced their way into my house and then filed paperwork to take it from me. Susan presents the photos, the forged permit forms, the fake bank access, the property dispute with the city, the camera footage, and the police report for identity theft. The judge asks Eli if he'd like to respond. He says I was just trying to be close to family again. I thought we were repairing our bond. The judge doesn't buy a second of it. Restraining order? Approved. Applies to Eli and my parents. No contact. No approach. Period. That night, for the first time in weeks, I breathe. Really breathe. But the calm doesn't last. Because on Thursday, I come home from work and my back window's smashed in. Glass all over the kitchen floor. TV's still there. Laptop untouched. Nothing stolen. Just wrecked. Deliberate. I don't need proof to know who did it. But the cops say without camera footage, it's just suspicion. I check the backyard cam. The footage cuts out for 3 minutes around the time it happened. You want to know how? They cut the power to the shed, which feeds that camera. Calculated. I call Susan again. We file another report. And then she says something that makes me sit down. Have you considered moving? Selling the house? Starting fresh? I don't say anything for a long time. Because yay, that thought had been creeping in. But what kind of world is this where I have to leave the home I bought, the life I built, just because my family thinks my existence is only valid if I have a wife and 2 kids? That weekend I get an offer on the house. Unlisted. Private buyer. Guess whose name was on the inquiry? My uncle with different last name thought I wouldn't notice. And the message attached? This is an opportunity to make peace. Let the house go and we can all move forward. I stared at that last message for a long time. Let the house go and we can all move forward. Move forward from what? From being harassed, lied about, and robbed by the people who share my DNA? From fake lawsuits and forged documents? From cameras cut, windows smashed, and my own mother standing on my porch like a real estate agent? No. No, we're not moving forward. We're finishing it. I called Susan. Told her everything. The shady offer from my uncle. The message. The whole thing stunk of a setup. She said they're panicking. They're trying to force your hand before the court date. Because here's the thing, we had the next hearing in less than a week. That's when everything was going to be reviewed by a judge. Not just the restraining order. Not just the fraud. The identity theft. The forged signatures. The attempt to access my bank accounts. And thanks to Susan and her legal partner digging into public records. Eli's name was on 3 different fraudulent property claims in the past 5 years. Not just my house. He had a pattern, a record. He tried this before with a cousin in Dallas. A roommate in Portland. And now with me. And guess what? My parents helped him then too. Not on paper, but with moral support. Covering legal fees. Calling it a misunderstanding. Now it was about to catch up to all of them. I asked Susan if we had any real shot at consequences. She said, best case? He gets charged. Worst case? He gets scared enough to crawl back under a rock. Either way, I was ready. So I waited. Didn't reply to the offer. Didn't respond to texts. Didn't answer the door? And then 2 nights before the hearing, something happened I still haven't fully wrapped my head around. It was around 11 p.m. I was in bed. Watching YouTube. Trying not to spiral. My camera's pinged again. Front porch. Motion detected. I flipped to the app. And there he was. Eli. Alone. Wearing all black. Backpack again. This time he didn't knock. He stood in the middle of the porch and just stared at the door for a full minute. Then he walked to the camera. Leaned in. And whispered, you know this isn't over, right? Then he walked off into the dark. Didn't touch anything. Didn't break in. Just left a message. I didn't sleep. Next morning I gave the clip to Susan. She said it was just the icing on the cake. Tuesday. Courthouse. Eli didn't show up. Neither did my parents. Only Susan and I were there, sitting in the hallway waiting to be called in. When it was our turn, the judge looked over the case file, the documents, the evidence, and asked one question. Is the defendant aware that failure to appear is considered voluntary forfeiture of any claim? Susan said yes. The judge nodded once, then signed the ruling. Restraining orders extended for 3 years. Fraud charges escalated to full criminal referral. Identity theft forwarded to the county prosecutor. And ownership of the house? Reaffirmed. As far as the law was concerned, my house was mine, my records were secure, and Eli and my parents were no longer just family issues. They were part of a paper trail now. And that changes everything. I still sold the house because I wanted to. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a battlefield. Every wall, every light switch, every damn drawer reminded me of what I'd lost. The version of myself that used to believe family first. The person who thought being quiet, respectful, and stable would earn peace. I listed it 2 weeks after the ruling. Sold it in 3 days. Cash buyer. No drama. I didn't tell anyone where I was moving. I packed up everything I cared about into one truck, took a week off work, and disappeared for a while. Found a little city nobody in my family had even heard of. Bought a loft. Set up a small home office. Started fresh. I didn't block their numbers, but I muted them. Occasionally, I'll get a random text from my dad. Your mother misses you. Or from Eli. Hope you're happy. They're both sick over what you did. But I never reply. Because here's the truth. I didn't do anything. They did it all to themselves. I live in a home nobody can touch. In a life I built without them. And every morning when I wake up and walk past my front door, I see a lock that only I have the key to. And it feels incredibly good.